what I want this recording for is this new NAR ruling, the settlement, and what agents should do. I think there's a lot, like I've read 10 freaking articles. There's some
Sure.
similarities with all of them, and then there's all these opinions of what's going to happen and whatever.
Right.
So I kind of want to get your perspective, but also
Okay.
roundtable the idea of what agents can do with investors, because
Okay.
I firmly believe, and I've been saying this forever, all agents should be investors. And they should be
Yes.
either investors themselves or working directly with the investor in a similar way that you're kind of working with Jarrett. Like represent the
Yep.
investors, right? Because they'll help you get paid not just once like a homeowner would, but like once a month or once a week at some level.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
So I want to get that perspective. That's kind of the point. And if we could just run for 20 minutes,
Yep.
on your take of it, what you see is happening, what you see your brokerage is saying, what agents are already doing, that kind of stuff. Cool.
Okay. Yep. You got it.
Okay. Um, well, cool. Well, this training is for those that are curious about the results from the lawsuit from NAR, the settlement, and how supposedly, and not supposedly, I think the only thing that I am clearly aware of is realtors are cannot post buyers' commissions on their listings for the agent for the buyers. So, Marissa, being a high volume agent, being a very experienced agent, what are you seeing within your brokerage? What are you telling your team? And maybe let's define some of the actual rules that were placed inside
Sure.
of this settlement.
Sure. Sure. Well, the first thing that needs to be said is this doesn't get finalized until July. So everybody, in my opinion, needs to pump their brakes. Second of all, nothing's actually changed. And buyer agency is still allowed. So the whole lawsuit was a disclosure issue, right? So people weren't disclosing commissions. So it doesn't say you can't do buyer agency. So I think that's number one that needs to get acknowledged. And then on the other side, so the way that Jared and I work together is a lot of off-market deals. So there's off-market deals, there's for sale by owners. Those type of people are non-represented, right? A for sale by owner is a non-represented seller. Typically another name for a wholesaler is a non-represented buyer, right? So
Yeah.
this type of stuff has gone on. There has always been our need to negotiate commissions, right? So we always do it on the list side. For me, I'm pretty adept at doing it on the buy side too. So that's all that's changed is just you have to disclose the commissions if you're in a state that wasn't doing it, and then who's going to pay it. And that's going to
Yep.
be a negotiation. Where you can advertise it, that's also changed. But again, that's not set in stone until July, what's going to happen.
And it's all like the thing that I think is important to understand is still like let's just say it's July. So now the rules are set in place. The
Mm-hmm.
way my perspective of this is kind of like not, something changed, right? So the listing agent can't
Mm-hmm.
promote 2-3% commission to the buyer's agent. However, that's on the MLS. They can
They
do it on
can
their
though,
own
right?
website, right? Like,
Yeah,
so
on
if
their own
Garrett has
website.
his own realtor website and he has all his listings
Mm-hmm.
on there, he can put 3% commission to buyer's agent because Jarrett
Mm-hmm.
negotiated that with the sellers to say, hey, we are going to pay out a commission to the buyers. But my
Mm-hmm.
understanding is the only place they can't say that is on the MLS.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And a couple of us were talking, we're like, how wonderful would it be to advertise the buyer agency commission on the for sale signs? So then all the neighbors know
I think the
who's
first
Right.
one
doing what.
that does that is going to be the team that excels the fastest. The
I think
team
it's
that
hysterical.
yeah, but I think the team that is willing to take that responsibility on first from a broker standpoint, man, you guys are going to hit a home run with it.
Yeah.
Start advertising it.
Well,
So
yeah, I think, and so it's like, to me, am I concerned about this? No, not at all, because we've always had to disclose and negotiate our commissions. Some people are more adept at it than others. Where we explain that to agents or people that we work with, that's what's changing. And so, in my opinion, anytime the government has stepped in, we had CFPB step in during the recession and go from the HUD-1, which was a clean 2-page document, to now we have the closing disclosure, the ALTA, right? So all that did was the exact same thing, except for about 10 times the amount of paperwork. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's going to happen here with the buyer
So
agency commissions. Like, it's still allowed, just how we disclose it, how it has to be acknowledged in writing, that is what's changing.
So there's two parts of this negotiation. One, the listing agent can and still should negotiate a payout to the buyer's agent within their listing terms, right? So if listing agent
Mhm.
negotiates, hey, Mr. Seller, we're still going to pay 2% or 3% or 1%, whatever it is, to a
Mhm.
buyer's agent when they bring a buyer, then that is just in the disclosures in terms of the listing agreement, correct?
Yes.
Right. So
Where
that's
it's
no different.
advertised, we'll see.
Right.
Yeah.
But by the way, that's no different than any agent that's ever taken a listing agreement ever in the history of listing agreements.
Right. Justin, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, guys, there's always been unrepped buyers and sellers. There has always been fee only discount brokerage.
Right.
There has always been a need to disclose. And if a buyer or seller doesn't want to pay, they don't have to pay.
Right.
Like that's always been the case.
Well, and
But
so here's what
then
I
that
would tell
becomes
you.
the agent's choice. But then do we want to work with them? That's the agent choice or the wholesaler
Right.
choice or the flipper or the buy and hold.
It's 100% your choice. So there's so much I want to unpack here, right? Because I'm an investor. Jared's an investor. So we go,
Hmm?
Marissa, I want to buy one home a week in Charlotte. Okay.
Yep.
Now you
Yes.
might,
Done.
you might, and by the way, I do. So there's that. But you might and go to the MLS to try to find deals that fit my buy box. You might.
Hmm?
Now, I would guess, tell me if I'm correct, you would probably reach out to the agents, actually have a conversation with them, and figure out, again, we're making assumptions that we're already in July, right? So this is
Hmm?
already in effect.
Sure. Yep.
You
Got
would
it.
probably call the agents and say, hey, I have an investor buyer that's looking for investment properties. They fix and flip, they buy and hold. This looks like a better buy and hold for them. Is there a commission that I would be able to earn if I brought them to the table as a buyer? That agent tells you whatever they tell you, yes, no, whatever. Maybe there's a shared commission, maybe there's a referral fee, whatever.
Hmm.
You get to say, okay, great, here's the offer. Or you get to say, well, if there's no commission, then my buyer has to pay me. So the offer is probably going to come in a little bit lower, right? Because
Yeah. I mean,
now he's paying me
you
out of
have to
pocket and he
rewind.
can't pay me.
Okay. So Jared and I just negotiated about 3 different sets of fees on some stuff we're working on. Okay.
Okay.
Jared and I didn't negotiate that when he's already looking at deals and going under contract. We talked about it when it's like, hey, how are you and I going to work together?
Mhm.
Okay. Some of it, just full disclosure, right, is a flat fee. One of the things I was like, I don't actually need to get paid on that because that will create a tremendous ripple effect for the agents that I coach and care about. So cool. Thank you for doing that. And then the third one, it's like, yeah, great, full commission, wonderful. So
Yeah.
it's always been a negotiation, and you have to, and this is where I think agents are freaking out. Their negotiation skills are weak, and you have to start in the beginning. Because to me, I'm not trying to put a client, a buyer, or a seller in a bad spot. I'm going to pre-discuss everything and say, here is what's happening. So if you're repping a buyer, and first of all, no agent in the history of time has ever netted 6%. So these articles are hysterical to me and just
Right.
fear mongering. So I also have to put that out there. Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, wonderful. If this is what consumers think buyer agents get, 6%, everybody
It'll make
give
it a
them
lot
a
easier for
discount
y'all.
and roll it 4, right? Then
Right.
we'll be good. So there's
I'd be
just so much
driving a different car and
misinformation.
living in a different house if buyer's agents
Yeah,
paid
like we wouldn't be
6%,
on
like you're
this Zoom,
thinking.
right?
Right.
So anyway, so what you have to do is negotiate it ahead of time. So what's one way to do it? The way we've been doing it for a while, since the 90s, where it's like the seller pays the commission. Great, it's disclosed in MLS. Another way that I've done it is the buyer pays it. Okay, they can pay cash, they can finance it into their loans. So there's some stuff going on there. You can negotiate it a million different ways, and I think that's what agents, they're a one-trick pony. I'm a buyer agent. I go to MLS. My comp is right there. That's all they know how to do.
I
So
love
as
that you
from a
said one trick pony because you heard me speak in Charlotte, and I'm a massive advocate of not being a one trick pony. And it's, I mean, we
yes,
need to
you're
offer
amazing.
it
You're an
to
amazing
people.
speaker.
Right. They're so mediocre at what they do. They just do enough to do enough. And so they become a one trick pony. And,
Mhm.
one of the things that I just posted on social media is like agents need to start deal hunting. Now, whether it's for
Yes,
themselves as an
yes.
investor, but at the end of the day, what solves all this, where there's literally nothing else for an agent to do except for go talk to a homeowner, is for them to go
Mhm.
directly and find more listing deals, buyer represented deals, where they're
Yes.
direct to the homeowner saying, hey,
Yes.
I need to, help my buyer find properties. Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, are you interested in
Mhm.
selling? Now you have a conversation where you are literally you're able to create your future versus rely on what other people put out there. You're waiting as a buyer's agent, you're waiting for an agent to put a listing on the MLS.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Why don't you go feed yourself? Why don't
Yep.
you actually go out and find your own
Yeah.
opportunities? Because then
Yep.
you can represent Jarrett, myself, or even yourself
Yeah.
as an
Mhm.
investor. And if that doesn't
Yep.
work out, then you say, listen, why don't we just list it? And now you become a listing agent,
Yeah,
right?
Justin, from my perspective, you'll love this. The worst case scenario as an agent is you list a property for commission. Worst case scenario.
Right. You
And
should
so,
already have a buyer
so
ready
to
to
me,
buy it.
well, and then you think, so it's like what Jared and I like to work, we call it, it's like a bridge build between real estate agents and investors. So you're exactly right. The whole solve of this is go out and create inventory, right? Learn how to underwrite deals, learn how to cold call, learn how to door knock, work your sphere, all that good stuff. And then once you've got a seller that wants to sell, I forget what you guys call it in science of flipping, but the multiple exits, right? So
Yeah.
when I look at
Diversify.
it, first question is, do I want to buy it? Right? Then it's okay, what price can I get it under contract for? Okay, then are we gonna wholesale it, list it for commission? Are we gonna flip it? Are we gonna, buy and hold, whatever it may be? That's also dictated by the seller, so it's like, does the seller want a retail exit?
That's right.
Is the seller distressed? Is the property distressed? So it's like, I must have, the one trick pony must have been on my mind, because it's obviously I'm talking to you, but that is the issue with our industry, is people have one move and then they're painted into a corner. And so
Right.
what I know the three of us work on is we've got many maneuvers that
Yeah.
are win-wins for everyone. And it's the deal by deal creativity and imagination that not everyone, I should say, the industry is lacking as a whole.
So rightfully so, it's gonna weed out the mediocre agents. And I mean, I don't know the statistics, you might, right? Like something like 1% of agents make north of six figures that are licensed agents. Like some
Right.
ridiculously low number. And it may not be
Yep.
1%, but it is very low, right?
Sure.
So I think there's a
Yes. Agree.
million two licensed realtors across the United States, something like that.
Yep.
Right. So like 1% is crazy. It's like 10,000 agents across the nation make 100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild, right? Like,
Right.
so the point being is it's going to weed out everyone else,
It is, and
right?
one of the things we've
Yeah.
been talking about, Marissa and I, just even this week, is how, again, to your point, Marissa, of not being that one trick pony, of having the multiple exit strategy, of knowing how to
Mm-hmm.
underwrite those different exit strategies, which most
Yep.
agents aren't used to doing, which was what we're teaching,
Right.
right? This is what we're teaching
Yeah.
within
We're doing it.
the
We're
local
doing it.
community, right? Just to make more
Yeah.
investors, not only for themselves, but so that they know what we're looking for as well. So they know what
Yeah.
Justin's looking for. And you can see how, this is all coming
Exactly.
full circle, because where did I learn it from? This guy, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, they're just having to not be lazy anymore, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, and and we've branded them blue ocean brokers, right? Real estate agents that can do the retail work with buyers and sellers and can also do the investment work. Because that's how I built my entire brand and business, was being able to be the bridge between the investment and retail world. And the more agents that do that, the better. And then it's all negotiation skills, right? Like they need to learn to negotiate commission and deals and in deal structure. I think the three of us are in love with deal structure and the creativity of that. And what Jared and I will do locally, right, is kind of plant some of those seeds to get that rolling.
No
Um,
doubt.
I I do want to say though, NAR is there. This is not the end of the story for NAR, because NAR has not helped real estate agents, nor have they helped consumers. So when you
Yeah.
think about clear cooperation, do you guys know what that is? So as an agent, you have a signed listing agreement with the seller. You have 24 hours or else you have to put it on MLS. Okay. If your seller doesn't want it on MLS, what do? Firm exclusive listing. So, but then that limits you to, now you can only cross-sell and share it with your buyers and the agents at your firm. So lucky for me, I've got over 90,000 agents at my firm. Some agents have 3 at their firm.
Right.
So why MLS? Okay, so let's go to MLS. To have access to MLS as a real estate agent, you have to become a realtor through the National Association. So it's this whole kind of back and forth. I've always thought it was a bit of a racket. So you have to get onto MLS, you have to be a real estate or a realtor. And then NAR dictates clear cooperation, meaning you get a listing agreement, you've got 24 hours to put it into MLS. So that whole thing, I'm like, who does that protect other than the MLS fees? Okay, so that's not consumer or real estate agent protection. Now we're fast forwarding to this lawsuit where the most hysterical thing to me, and it's really not funny, is it was a disclosure issue. So it's like a disclosure issue of buyer agency compensations. Now in the settlement, they're saying we can't disclose commissions. I'm like, who is the dingbat that came up with that? That doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help consumers. That doesn't help real estate agents. You know, and it's like, I can see that there's going to be another set of lawsuits that have to do with fair housing, right? Where buyers are just getting creamed by sellers or listing agents that aren't doing that. Then, you know, it's like, okay, let's just say on some type of loan types, if they can't finance in the commission because they're paying their buyer and then they're unrepresented and something goes sideways with the deal, that's going to create another lawsuit. So my point is, like, everyone has been allowed to be unrepresented. Commissions have always had to be disclosed. And I just don't like this meddling because the NAR just does not have a huge track record, in my opinion, of actually helping agents or consumers.
Well, it's big business, right? They're looking out for their pocketbook. But, and I'll kind of leave with this. You know, I coach to Privy, which is more of a national MLS type product. How would you suggest those relationships being built moving forward? You and Jarrett already have a relationship, so that's done. But if you're, you know, Johnny, new investor, and I'm coaching you to use Privy as a tool to find properties that could work for me, right? What type of conversations need to be had from the investor now and the agent who potentially is going to be making offers on multiple properties for them, the investor? How does that conversation, what should it look like? Because in my head, and I think in everyone's head, the agent's always thinking, what's in it for me? How am I going to make money out of this relationship? And if I can't see a direct line to making money, then I'm not going to go be a bird dog and submit offers on these properties, right? So how does that conversation look?
So first off, every single investor I've ever represented has been under a non-exclusive buyer agency agreement. That means that if I, Marissa, can't find them a deal that fits their buy box, I don't get paid. Right. And that works both ways. So I think that, again, it's the elevated level of education where he who controls the deals makes the money across the board. So you have to rewind that all the way back to, do you know how to underwrite? And like you said, Privy, National MLS, we've got from a brokerage side, we've got Zenlist, we've got Raven.re, Zillow and Realtor.com are essentially national MLSs. So you can go searching there. And it's networking, it's relationships, right? So I met Jarrett through an agent that coaches with me, went to his panel, loved his mastermind. You were the speaker the next month, showed up, you crushed it, loved everything that you had to say. And I was like, I like these guys. And what did I do immediately? How do we work together?
Right.
And so that's what it is. It's just the question of, Justin and Jarrett, what do you two need? And then let me go back and look and see what puzzle pieces I have. Let me present that to you. If it's a thumbs up, let's negotiate comp, and I don't get paid unless I deliver. So that's how this business works. And I don't know where that got twisted.
Well, do you think there's anything different that a newer investor or an investor, let's just say they want to go open up a market, like, so Jarrett wants to go open up Indianapolis, let's just use it, right?
Sure.
He doesn't really know, so he uses a Privy or a Zillow, it doesn't matter. And he calls agents he's not familiar with and says, what? Does the conversation need to change because of this ruling? Or is it still, hey, I'm an investor, I'm looking to open up a footprint in Indiana and Indianapolis, looking for investment properties, fix and flips, buy and holds.
Yeah.
now again, we're making the assumption it's July already. So does the
July, sure.
conversation
Right.
have to change, or are agents just gonna do what they do and they're gonna call the agent about the listing and say, hey,
Right.
is there any money in there for me? No, there's not, because whatever happened. Okay, great. Then the agent calls Jared back saying, hey, we can put in an offer here, but there's no, like, you're gonna have to pay my commission on this home because there is no commission to the buyer's agent.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So it has to be that discuss. So from Jared's perspective, it's the same talk track. It's meeting people, it's reaching out. Hey, I'm an investor. Here's my buy box. Here's what I'm looking for. Right. And just building that reputation. Both of you close. So that's an important thing, right? As soon as you start closing in markets, people like it. They want to bring you deals.
Yep.
Secondly, that's on the agent to discuss that with Jared. And then Jared, if he knows he's making an offer on a deal that he's got to pay the buyer agency comp, right? You guys talk about the Bubba math all the time, right? We're doing 75% of ARV minus our repairs, minus our assignments or whatever we need. And guess what? We might need to add another box in that training, minus buyer agent commission. Okay. As is offer.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's a really
Love
good,
that.
You know?
really good point. That
So
might have to be something in the calculation of the Mayo, right? Which I don't love just using Mayo, but you might have to
sure.
have that. Like, where I see the biggest impact, frankly, is not really in the markets I
Yeah.
invest in. It's in the $1 million markets. It's in the markets where a seller's like, why am I paying this agent that I don't know $30,000 to bring me a buyer?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I can
Mm-hmm.
see there being some discrepancy. But to your point, Marissa, that is 100% up to the agents to negotiate with the seller, right? And if the listing agent doesn't do their job, or at least just wants to get the listing and I want to make sure I have it, then the listing
Yeah.
agent might fold and say, yeah, we don't have to pay let the buyer pay the agent
Sure.
just so I can get the listing so it sounds better.
Well, the buyer has always paid the agent, guys. Like that's where I'm like, again, duh. Like
It's just
just
built into the
because it was
financing,
baked, it
right?
was built into the financing. So fine, do it the other direction, right? Seller gets offered a little bit less, buyer finances in the commission, or however that may play out. But again, Justin, everyone has always had the opportunity to FSBO or be an unrepresented buyer. So if they want, I don't see that. That's where I'm like, people want representation and they want to pay for representation. And typically you see it on both ends of the spectrum, right? First time home buyers, first time home sellers, people that are only going to transact maybe 3 houses in their entire lifetime definitely need representation. And then for me, I've worked with ultra high net worth individuals my entire career. And guess what? Are they smarter than me and know more about real estate? 1,000%. And guess who gets paid to do the real estate broker work? Me.
Because
Because
it's
they
work.
don't want to deal with it. They're running their businesses and their careers and they're managing teams of people. They want to be like, Marissa, here is my order. And I'm like, aye, I'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
so this
it's
is
the
where I'm
age-old
like,
argument.
it's ridiculous to say like, I just don't see everything changing overnight, because it's like, if you haven't wanted representation, you didn't have to have it. And then there has always been fee only brokers. This also reminds me of when iBuyers started to become popular. And I'm like, guys, there have always been large cash buyers since the beginning of time. Now they're just wrapped up in sexy marketing with websites.
Yep.
I say
That
the one
didn't
thing that we're
destroy
going to
the,
pivot to do with my team and with the on-market acquisitions, when we're not already connected to a Marissa and we're going into a new market, is we'll probably do a lot more of the unrepresented. Like we're going to go into each offer the unrepresented, so it just doesn't become part of the conversation necessarily.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, well, for the agent perspective, it's true in all sales, right? You get paid for your value. So provide enough value to
Mm-hmm.
justify payment, period. And that's why I
Yes.
said there's going to be this
Yes.
widening of a gap
Yeah.
of the best realtors and everyone else. And everyone else is going to be out there freaking
That
out. Oh my God, we're over.
I
This is
agree with.
terrible. But if you provide
Yeah.
high value and you're a Marissa and you're really in the trenches grinding for your client, your buyer, negotiating a deal, renegotiating because this inspection
Mm-hmm.
came up and there's $40,000 worth of costs that, because of the, sewage and whatever, I'm making it up. But now Marissa needs to go back and renegotiate with it. Like, there's value in doing that for someone like me, for someone like Jared. Like, I don't have time to go do that per se, right?
That's what it is. So that's it, Justin. It's time and expertise. That's why you pay a real estate agent. Either you don't have the time or you don't have the expertise. If you do, have fun.
Right.
Go
And again,
rep
when you're
yourself, get a
dealing with
license.
when you're dealing with price points that I like under 300,000, like there's not, I
Mhm.
don't need a whole lot of expert, like there's not a lot of harm's way, right? I look for dumpster fire
Yeah.
properties that need a full remodel. I know I'm going to spend 80 grand on the damn
Sure.
home.
The
I don't
inspection
need a
report is not
realtor
going
to
to
tell
matter
me.
a whole lot to you.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm
I
not
think
taking away
too,
from
so
the
it,
realtor. I'm just saying when Jarrett
yeah.
goes into Indianapolis or I go into a new market, I've never
Mhm.
bought into me needing a buyer. I would rather my team go directly to the agent, build the same type of rapport, and we just
Exactly.
know our numbers. We know where we need to buy at, which
Yep.
brings me full circle.
Yep.
I think all agents need to go be deal finders. You guys, and you
Yes.
already do
Great.
this. You know this.
Acquisition army is what I call them. Yes.
Yeah.
You
Jared and I
have
are
to
building an
be.
acquisition army.
Right.
Yep.
Whether it's door knocking, cold calling, Rocket League, whether
Mhm.
it's whatever, right? Like
All of it.
agents should be doing it because it's going to help them. I have agents that work directly with us. They literally
Mhm.
they will buy homes so they can get a commission essentially because that's how hard
Yep.
the market is right now. Hate to say it, but they will
Yep.
literally buy a home so that they can
Yeah.
list the damn thing to get a
Yeah. So
commission.
yeah, exactly. Same here. Yep.
You know what I mean?
So
So
the other piece too is you have to have, who are your allies in this industry? So the two of you are allies to me, right? So
right.
it's like, as soon as all this stuff happened with NAR, I was talking to the top dogs agents at EXP, Compass, Keller Williams, Real, Sotheby's, etc., and just being like, and guess what? Every single top person, every single company is like, guys, we're good.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens in July, and we'll follow the new rules.
And it's not that big of a deal,
And
but
it's
it's very clickbaity for someone who's a marketer.
oh, it's
So I
extreme.
like the
You know, okay,
clickbait
so
of
I
it.
was digging that. So I actually screenshotted some of that. I was like, this is amazing marketing, because I was like,
Yeah,
nothing has actually happened, and they're just scaring everyone, and people are up in a tizzy, and it's like, and then I'm also thinking too, it's like, our profession has never been a favorite of the general population. So I'm like, also the sentiment around real estate agents, I'm like, that's not new news that
it's
the
very
public isn't a
clickbaity. And
fan.
the post I posted this
Yeah.
morning, the post I posted yesterday got 2,000 views. The one I did this morning
Yep.
already has 6,000. Because it's
Yeah.
clickbaity. People want to hear the news of
Yeah.
it, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
I know you got to jump. I got to
Yeah.
jump. Jared's got to
Yeah.
jump. I
Yeah.
appreciate you spending some time, and hopefully this. And
Thank
if you
you.
want this recording, I'll give it to you in case you want it for any purposes. But appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. You're the best.
Thank
Later.
you. Talk to you later. See you.
Bye.